Hey there, fellow classic comic collectors. As always, I'm Scott Harris King, and today I'm here with a very important, serious question. Are your comic books killing you? Okay, a little hyperbole there, but actually, I wanted to talk about this because this is started to become an issue for me. You may remember, I know you do because I get messages about it once in a while asking me where the follow up is, but a while ago, quite a while ago now, I did a video where I was trying out a method that I had read online about how to get rid of mustiness in comics. And I built this big contraption with cat litter in it, and I put some comics in there, and I left them there for a couple months, and I was going to do the follow up about how great it worked, except it didn't work. And I've been trying to figure out what to do to try again, but it's become kind of a pressing thing. And I want to talk about that today. You may remember also, I've talked about this, that my romance comics in particular tend to be musty. As you know, I buy a lot of romance comics. It's very difficult to collect romance comics if you're just going to comic stores. You kind of have to do it online because it's so hard to find stores that have any, and the ones that do, that have a limited supply. Because there's so few places that have them. People like me that collect romance, I go around all these stores, and every store I talk to, they're like, we don't have any. We have a guy who collects it, and every time we get any in, he buys them all. Every store. And now I don't know if it's the same guy. Maybe there's only two of us, but there's this mythical guy who is at every comic book store buying whatever romance they ever get in. And so the only way really to collect romance is to do it online. And when you're trying to do that on a budget like I am, that means I buy a lot of lower grade books, and a lot of them are really musty because romance books in particular, people just didn't really take care of them. It's not like superhero books where there are collectors. A lot of these were bought by readers who did not go on to become comic collectors, and so they're being found now in basements and in attics and in garages, and they're musty and they're stinky. And now everybody's got their own individual, health things. For me, I happen to be really sensitive to air quality, and much more so than my wife. It's odd because I don't have a very good sense of smell, so things that smell really bad don't bother me, and they really bother her because she has a really good sense of smell. But it turns out that the sense of smell is not connected to the air quality thing necessarily, like you might think it is, because for me, if something's off with the air quality, if there's something a little bit off, I can tell immediately. And I've started to have an issue here in my comic room with the mustiness because I have so many romance comics. And in particular, it's been about a year since I've cataloged my books. So these comics aren't stowed away in boxes. They've just been sitting around my office. And the result is that my office has gotten quite musty. So over the weekend, I decided to finally catalog and put away all of my comics that have been piled up, including all my romance comics, and I've gotten a ton of them. And while I was doing it, a couple in particular were really bad, including a recent one I just got. I think you've already seen it in one of my recent haul videos, but it was a Lovelorn number 9, which has this really cool cover, in the circus cover, where the lion tamer is letting loose a black leopard to maul this couple because they were cheating on her. And that one was so bad that when I was working on just catalog, entering it in my database and stuff like that, I started having some breathing issues. Not too bad, but I could feel it a little in my chest, and I actually was wheezing a little bit for a couple hours afterwards. I had to actually stop working on the comics and go out of the room. So this is an issue for me. It caused me a lot of anxiety. Not so much worrying about my health necessarily, but the comics. This is my safe space. This is what I do for fun. This is what I love. And the idea that the comics themselves were making me sick, it's making me anxious about spending time with my comics, and that's horrible because that's what I want to do. That's what I love doing. So there's a couple things that I'm doing as a result that I'm having to do. The first thing is I'm airing out my office. I've got the window open. You can see here. I've had that open for a couple of days. I've got an air purifier, and I'm trying to get out what I can. The second part is I'm going to finish cataloging the books because once they're in the boxes, that will help a lot. because the boxes do contain, yes, they're not airtight, but they will contain some of the mustiness. But beyond that, there's a couple bigger things that I'm going to have to do. I've already started the first thing, and the big thing is the books that are really musty, I have to get rid of them. And so that means as I'm cataloging these romance comics that I've just gotten in, I just got that Lovelorn 2 weeks ago. It's going back out. I have to get rid of it. I can't have that around. There were 3 or 4 other books that I remember getting in and being particularly musty that I hadn't cataloged yet. Those are also going away. And I haven't even read them. I haven't had a chance to read them. One of them I'm going to read before I get rid of it because it's a Vietnam story. But those are going to have to go. But the other thing is, as I'm going through these books and cataloging them, if there's ones that are particularly musty, I'm going to have to get rid of them. Which breaks my heart because, I'm trying to put together these complete runs. I've got these checklists that I've been working on. And you never want to go backwards where, instead of needing 80 issues for the complete run, now I might need 90 or something because I'm going to have to get rid of some of the ones I already have. But for my sake of my health and the enjoyment of the hobby, I'm going to have to do it. So, right now I've got over 1,000 romance comics, and a lot of them are musty. Now, there's different levels of mustiness. A lot of them aren't that bad. It's just when I have 20 or 30 of them together that are all kind of musty, then it starts to become a problem. It also becomes a problem storing them in the boxes because the ones that weren't musty are now being baked, in the mustiness. So as I go through these, I'm going to have to start actually cutting down my romance collection. There's certain things in areas in particular that I can focus on. Charlton is the big one. I'm never going to have a complete run of everything in Charlton because it's like over 1,200 romance books. It might be over 1,400. It's an insane number of them. And so with Charlton, I've always tried to collect specific covers, specific stories, like the Vietnam stuff, specific runs. But as I've been doing them, I'm getting in all these lots, and I've been, finding stuff at flea markets, whatever. And so I have probably 100 Charltons that I've just gotten that I don't particularly care about, and I'm going to have to get rid of them because the Charltons in particular tend to be bad. Marvel ones not so much, but the DC ones tend to be rough because of their age. A lot of the DC books from the 50s and the early 60s, those were not taken care of at all. Charlton's different though because they printed it on the cheapest possible paper they could possibly find, and because of that, the Charlton books tend to get musty and toasty faster than the DC books. And so that's basically where I'm at, is I'm going to have to get rid of the musty books in my collection. And I'm also going to have to change how I buy the romance books because I can't just buy any old romance books because it's cheap. I'm going to have to be careful. I've never been one to pay attention to page quality. I don't really care that much if, what the page quality is in general. But I'm going to have to start caring. Because the worse the page quality, the more likely it's going to be musty. I'm going to have to start asking questions of people on eBay because it's an issue. Just here doing this video, I feel a little out of breath and I feel like a little tightness in my chest because of all the mustiness in the room, and that's 100% because of the piles of romance comics. I've been collecting comics for 35 years. I've never had any issues with mustiness or with breathing problems with my comics, except for individual issues. Like I've got a copy of Fantastic Four 25 that I have had to quarantine for the last 30 years because it's so bad. I'm getting rid of that as well. But I've never had an issue with comics in general in terms of this. But just within the last couple months, the amount of old musty romance comics piled around my office has become too much. And I have to make some changes. It's hard because, of course, the easiest way to figure out which ones are musty are to go through them and smell them. But if I do that, it's going to make things a lot worse. So I'm going to have to do it piece by piece. So as I'm filing these away, as I'm cataloging them, anything I come across that seems musty, enough for me to really notice, it's going to have to go in a separate pile. I'm going to have to uncatalog it, and I'm going to have to get rid of them. There will be some exceptions. If I have a key book or something like that, you know, if my Secret Hearts #1 is musty, that's a little bit different. I'm going to still hold on to that. But I can't have like 20, 30, 50 of these musty books in one box because it's just too much for me. So the other thing I'm doing to try and get rid of it is the follow-up to the cat litter thing. And it's been suggested to me that I try activated charcoal. So I haven't received it yet, but I have on the way a shipment of a whole bunch of little sachets, little bags of activated charcoal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate them, which involves, I guess, setting it out in the sun for an hour or 2 hours to get it activated, whatever that means. And then and then you have to do that once a month, I guess, to reactivate it. But once I have that done, I'm going to put a thing of the activated charcoal in each of the romance boxes. I've got 12 coming. I'm going to have 7 or 8 romance boxes. And so I'm going to have some left over. Those are all staying in my office as well. And I'm also going to get a dehumidifier for my office. So we're going to have the air purifier and the dehumidifier plus the charcoal to try and clean it up. And again, I'm keeping the windows open. I'm getting the airflow through here. So my hope is that, you know, I do think just getting them put away will help because they won't all be out here. But that's basically where I'm at. So it's something to think about for you guys. I don't know if anyone else has had any similar issues, but it's just, you know, I love these comics and I love the romance comics, but if I can't enjoy them, then what's the point? And if they're actually diminishing my enjoyment of everything else, which is what's happening right now, then they've got to go, and then I've got to look for a replacement, something a higher grade, higher page quality with no mustiness, which is going to cost me a lot more money, but in the long run, it's definitely going to be worth it for my enjoyment. So let me know what you think down below. Let me know if you have any tips or if you've run anything like this. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.